In this video, I'm going to show you the number one problem when it comes to going on a vegan diet. What's up guys, Carlo Macapinlac here from newbiefitnessacademy.com. I help busy professionals look at shirtless so they can feel more confident and get the most out of their lives. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every time I post a new video every week. Okay, the plant-based movement is getting a lot of steam these days when it comes to being the best diet for you, right? And I have nothing against vegans, by the way. In fact, I have a lot of respect for vegans. You know, that takes a lot of commitment, a lot of discipline, and a lot of dedication to stick to that kind of diet and lifestyle. But before we build a case against veganism, we need to start looking into some history and how we evolved as human beings. So we got to look at a little bit of ancestral science here. So we've been around for 2.5 million years. And we evolved to eat plants and animals. We're omnivores, right? So we hunted megafauna, which are big animals like mastodons, saber-toothed tigers, giant sloths, giant beavers, and the likes. And then we would stumble upon plants and wild berries and seasonal berries, for example. We are not herbivores. The Inuits in Canada, for example, and other tribes out there in remote parts of the world still live in this kind of a hunter-gatherer lifestyle where they hunt animals for food. Especially the Inuits in Canada, right? I mean, they live up north. They don't really have access to, plants and berries, so they hunt seals. Seals are their main source of food. So what they do is when they catch a seal, they would go after the fatty parts of the seal and organ meats because they are the most nutrient-dense part of the animal. And they would actually feed the lean cuts of meat to their dogs. Basically, hunting and eating animals is how we evolved as human beings. Veganism and going on a vegetarian diet is nothing but a modern human experiment. I know that's hard for some people to hear, but that's the truth. If you study traditional people, for example, if you study traditional groups, there are no ancestral groups out there that identified as being vegans or vegetarians. Veganism hasn't really existed in human history until today. Like if you ask a lot of anthropologists out there, for example, right, they'll tell you that eating meat and being able to cook meat is how we evolved as human beings. We developed tools to hunt these animals, right? We developed spears and bows and arrows and stuff like that. And we hunted them down, we cracked their bones open, and we gained access to the marrow, which is very, very nutrient dense, right? So you gotta think about it this way, okay? So back in the Paleolithic times, we evolved to survive the harshest conditions that this planet had to offer. And the way we did that was by learning how to hunt and be able to access nutrient-dense types of foods. We then learned how to cook meat, right? Which made the nutrients more bioavailable, which allowed us less time for foraging, right? So we didn't have to go out and gather leaves and berries. We would just cook animals and get all our nutrients from just that one source. If you look at monkeys, for example, right? They spend 80% of their day foraging for food. They would just go around and eat leaves and eat berries and whatever they can get their hands on, and they would just spend all day foraging for food. We don't need to do that anymore. So the simple fact that we learned how to hunt and cook meat is what allowed us to develop our brains and advance civilization and society in general. We started to build pyramids, we built airplanes, we built iPhones, we developed YouTube channels, and now you're watching a video about veganism. Speaking of bioavailability and nutrient density, it is very, very, very hard to get all the nutrients that your body needs from a vegan diet. Protein, for example, is a really, really big topic when it comes to fitness and nutrition, right? You gotta eat a stupid amount of beans and broccoli, for example, to get the proper amount of protein that your body needs to build muscle versus just eating like a 5-ounce piece of meat, for example. And the other thing that you gotta consider is the bioavailability of the nutrients in plant foods versus animal foods, right? So plant protein, for example, right? Let's say you eat 100 grams of protein from plant-based foods, again, from broccoli and beans, for example, right? Well, the bioavailability of plant protein is actually just 20%, which means that if you eat 100 grams of plant protein, you're actually only getting 20 grams of it versus animal protein absorption is about 80%. So that's a huge difference when it comes to actually absorbing all the nutrients that you're eating from animal foods versus plant foods. And the other argument for vegans is that, they say that, oh my God, I feel so much better since I switched to a vegan diet. And that may or may not be true, but you have to consider the baseline of where some of these people are coming from, right? So if your baseline is, eating chicken nuggets, Twizzlers, Twinkies, and Doritos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you automatically switch to a vegan diet, of course you're gonna feel better. But here's the thing, if you ask any vegan or vegetarian person out there, they'll tell you that they're eating way too much carbs, right? They're eating way too much bread, pasta, cereal. They're eating way too much fruit, so their predominant macronutrient is carbs. And this is common knowledge, but I have to mention it anyway, right? If you eat too much carbs, if you eat too much refined carbs, processed carbs, and sugar, the likelihood of you gaining weight and developing obesity and heart disease skyrockets. And what is satiating, right? Satiating foods are fat and protein. And that's just basic human physiology, right? So fats and protein activate your satiety hormones. Like, it's very hard to overeat steak, for example. Whereas, if you put cookies, chips, candy, and crackers in front of someone, there's no limit. Next thing you know, you're staring at the bottom of the bag, right? And you're like, what happened? And another thing that I want to mention are plant-based substitutes, instead of meat, right? So Beyond Burger is a perfect example of this. It's all the rage these days. Every fast food chain out there, a lot of restaurants carry Beyond Burger option these days. But here's the problem with that, okay? If you look at the ingredient of a beef burger patty, for example, there's one ingredient, beef, right? But then if you look at the ingredients of a Beyond Burger patty, I can't even pronounce half of the ingredients in that list. You know what I mean? It's highly processed, and you can't possibly think that that option is healthier versus a grass-fed burger patty. It's just not. So there's that, but then all good reasoning goes out the window when we're presented with an ideologically based documentary like What the Health and the likes. The documentary makes these unsubstantiated claims like, for example, eating an egg is as bad as smoking 5 cigarettes a day, or that eating meat causes diabetes, and that cholesterol is the devil, and just weird health claims. And people tell me these claims, they're like, oh, eating egg is bad for you. And I'm like, where did you hear that? And then they'll tell you that, oh, I saw it from What the Health, and they watch something like that and they take it as the truth. Like, none of that is based on good science. None of the health claims in that documentary is based on good science. The claims that they make in that documentary are based on what's called an epidemiological studies, right? So if you don't know what that is, an epidemiological study is an observational study where they ask, let's say, 100 people, right? So they give people food questionnaires and they ask them, what did you eat over the last 6 months? As if we can remember what we ate last week or even yesterday, for example, right? So people do their best to answer these questionnaires, right? So they look who ate eggs and who had a heart attack. And then they try to make a correlation between the two. Does that sound like good science to you? So they use that information and then they make these crazy claims about, again, eating an egg is as bad as smoking 5 cigarettes a day, which is just crazy. If you choose to follow a vegan diet, you need to follow it perfectly if you want to be healthy. That's just the way it is. And some people do it, right? There are high-level athletes out there. There are, professional vegan bodybuilders that are doing very well on a vegan diet. But they're more of an exception and not the rule. Because if you follow a vegan diet, you need to stay on top of your supplements. And that's just not what a lot of people do when they follow a vegan diet, right? They just eat plant-based food and they think that they're eating a healthy diet. And a really big one that people miss out on is essential fatty acids, right? So EPA and DHA, which you would normally just get from eating fish, for example. Like, you can't get that from a vegan diet, and that's where supplementing comes into play. But then supplementing also comes with bioavailability again. Like, you have to take an excessive amount of supplements to get the same amount as you would normally get from just eating, a 3-ounce piece of fish. Like vitamin K2, for example, which is important for cardiovascular health, can only be found in animal products. Same thing with vitamin B12. Like, you can take supplements, but you're usually just getting the precursor to that vitamin instead of the actual vitamin itself. So your body has to convert what you're taking in. And again, it just reduces what you're actually getting. Again, bioavailability. Like beta carotene, for example, instead of retinol, which is what your body actually needs, which again, you would only get from pasture-raised fats and grass-fed organ meats. Another example is iron from spinach, for example, right? So people say that, oh, but there's iron in spinach. Well, your body doesn't absorb it the same way versus, getting iron from meat. Are you guys catching my drift here? Like, the most nutritious food on the planet is liver, grass-fed liver, which nobody's used to eating anymore, right? But if you ask your grandparents, they used to eat liver and onions. That was a normal thing back then. Bottom line is, you can get all the vitamins and nutrients that your body needs from animal foods. You cannot get that from a vegan diet. And the last argument for vegans is that, they do it because they want to reduce their carbon footprint on this planet. And I'm on board with that. I totally agree. I'm with you 100%. For moral reasons, I am totally on board. That's why you want to consume meats that are ethically sourced and are pasture raised. But at the end of the day, right, if you want to follow a vegan diet for ideological reasons, that's totally fine. But there are no randomized clinical control trials that proves that a vegan diet is the healthy diet for humans. There just isn't any. There is, however, a lot of rigorous research, so randomized controlled clinical trials done on thousands of people that shows that a diet higher in fat and lower in carbs leads to better outcome in terms of weight loss, improvement in overall health, and preventing diabetes and heart disease. At the end of the day, if you're following a vegan diet, you just have to ask yourself this one question. If you're following a diet for moral and ideological reasons, but it's actually affecting your health in a negative way, is it really worth it? Okay, the next question then becomes, how are you actually supposed to eat if you want to lose weight? Because let's be honest, 80% of your body composition goals is determined by your diet. You can't just freestyle this part. Do you have a proven plan that you can follow? To help you with that, I want to give you a free copy of my Lean Body Blueprint. This is how I melted all the fat around my stomach and turned it into a six-pack without going in a crazy diet or wasting hours at the gym. It's a simple 4-step process specifically designed for busy professionals, and it's the exact same blueprint that I teach all my private coaching clients, and they've all gone to see some amazing results. If you want to be the next success story, then download your free copy of the Lean Body Blueprint right now. There's going to be a link in the description box. Just click on it, type in your email, and I'll send it to you right away. Now, if you enjoy this video, then please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post a new video every Friday. And hey, leave me a comment below if you found this video helpful or if you have any questions about this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the comment section. Virtual high five.